Good morning, everybody. It's Carpo. We the people. We the people of the world. Don't know where to go from here. I just had this thought occur to me a few minutes ago, and I wanted to share it. I was thinking about kids growing up in today's world and how frustrating it must be. And I want to say that if you're under age 25, hell, if you're even under age 30, I really feel for you. And I can't imagine what it's like to grow up in a society where the 9 and 10-year-olds around you have cell phones. And I told myself as I got older that I was never going to be one of those people. And I'm not going to be one of those people who says, oh, the good old days. But, you know, if you mention the word analog today, a lot of people look at you like, what? And I finished high school in 1994. I actually was like 3 credits short. I never graduated. And I never wanted to go back and deal with it. But 94 would have been my graduating year. It was my senior year. And in that year, I remember I got a hold of a pager. And I remember wearing it for a while. It wasn't even hooked up. I remember wearing it a couple times, just for a little while, because it was just so cool to have a pager. And eventually, you know, oh, that's right. Before that, I'd had one hooked up, and it was just the coolest thing to be able to page people. And you know, everybody wore their pagers where you could see, and you had to beep, beep. Ooh, look, I'm important. And it was still distracting, very distracting. But when I walked through the high school halls, people were talking and looking at each other and communicating. And then today, it's like everybody's playing with their phones. And I know I'm not going to be one of those old, oh, everybody's on their phones, but it's overwhelming with kids these days. But that's not what I'm really here to talk about. It's all the technology combined. But not just the technology, but the main point of this, which is when we were young, and when my parents were young, and when their parents were young, they had a direction. Their parents would tell them, this is what society does. They would observe those around them. They would find a niche, find a career. It wasn't always pretty, it wasn't always perfect. But the kids today have too many different people screaming at them from too many different directions, you see. Now that we have exposed so many of the faults of our society, and so much of the corruption is out there on the table, the kids are growing up well aware that they're being lied to, and well aware that there's more to life than just working a career, which on one hand can be a very good thing, because people need to know there's more to life than just a job and death. On the other hand, it can lend a lot of confusion to a person who's trying to find their own path in life. And so here's the kid who wants to get a college education and go out and be a dentist or whatever. And here's this friend of his who's saying, why are you wasting your time with the degree? Go out and enjoy the world, you know, see things, do things. Or why are you buying into, you know, the college? You're just going to be paying back your student loan fees, which we know is like the biggest scam right now, especially since they increased the interest rates, I think, last year. It's just ridiculous. And this is why I'm opposed to, this structured education system. It's not because of the education. We don't need the education. It's because we don't need all the side effects that come with the education that they're providing. So we have a choice. We can either buy into it and just go through it, or we can opt out and be kind of left behind. And in between, there's all these other kids trying to figure out what they're going to do with their lives, because they don't want to be part of this corrupt system, but they don't know any other way to do it. And you know, it's each generation looks back on their lives a little differently, of course, and says that, oh, well, we were the old schoolers, you know. The kids that are 18 today, when they're my age, 38, 20 years, they're going to look back and be like, damn, those were the good old days, you know. All we had were regular phones. Now everybody has phones implanted into their eyeballs, stuff like that. We can't see which direction we're going to turn from here with technology, but this is my personal opinion on it. I think that it's not going to go as far as people think, as far as like the personal computing devices and stuff like that. You know, a lot of people say, "Oh, I'd love to have a pair of those Google glasses," but I've met a lot of people who say I would never wear those Google glasses. And the thing with the cell phones got pretty damn small. You know, little mini cell phones. I don't see anybody with those anymore. People want something with some girth. So I think that cell phones have reached a size of irreducible complexity that you can't, not complexity, not, that's the wrong term, but you can't reduce it any further and still get the enjoyment out of it. Because you have to have your screen, and I imagine that somebody will say, well, we'll make a phone this big and then you can just project the screen. But what I'm saying is that I get the feeling that people are going to kind of bottom out on how much technology they're willing to accept and how much they're willing to automate their lives. When people start automating everything in their houses like they're doing now, and they find that they have a virus or a computer program problem and their whole house shuts down, you know. I'm just saying that technology might take a huge leap, but personal technology, I hope, will balance out. And you know, when I was like 12 years old, I used to play records on my record player. I had one of those little stacks, little all-in-one stacks with the tape player and the record player. And they didn't have CDs yet. Well, they did, but only the really rich people had them. And I would buy records at Fred Meyer down, you know, out of the bin, the record bin, you know. And it's just weird to me now, just to think how far things have gone. And I remember sitting with my friends. I specifically remember one time sitting with my friends, getting stoned when we were like 16, sitting behind this building, and we were talking about where's music going to go from here. And I remember the conversation about CDs because they were just coming out, and I was like, you know, I just get this feeling one day everything's going to be on this little tiny card, you know, and then you'll just be able to just plug it in and it'll have all your music on it. You know, that seemed like a pipe dream, and now here we are with like cloud music storage, you know, things being stored on the internet and out in cyberspace, and how you can pull satellite radio out, and it's just, you know, it's overwhelming. But I grew up at least able to see a little bit of that analog world. I can still read a map. I can read a compass and a map and understand how these things work, and I feel like we've abandoned a lot of these simple things because we think they're not necessary anymore. And I don't know if they are or not. I don't know. And I don't know. Each person's going to have their own opinion. But I really feel for the kids today. Because they don't know where to go. And they don't know what to do. And it's got to be one of the toughest. You know, they talk about how the older generation has a hard time these days because of all the changes in technology. And I don't see that, because I see that the older generation has their preconceived notions about life, and they live their life. They can ignore the technology. They don't have to have a computer. Some choose to, some don't. But they've built themselves a set of values based on a life of hard work, to where, you know, they can make rational decisions about these things. And kids don't have that choice. They're young, and when they see all these people around them taking advantage, and stealing, and thieving, and all the corruption, you know, it's hard not to buy into that. And I guess I'd love to see kids grow up with a new value system, one that outdates all of ours. You know, one that says being human is about sharing, caring, loving. But maybe that's a pipe dream. I don't know.